In the golden age of kickboxing, there was a sudden death elimination tournament, where 16 masters from all different backgrounds and styles came together to test themselves for honor and for glory. This was the legendary K-1 Grand Prix, where the best talent all fought multiple times in one night to determine who was truly the greatest in the world. We began in the epic 1997 Grand Prix, where 11 of the 15 fights ended by KO.
16 elite warriors were now down to 2. The Blue-Eyed Samurai, last year's winner, Andy Hoog, and Mr. Perfect, Ernesto Hoost. The two had fought twice before, with Hoost taking majority decision win over Hoog in 1995, but Hoog enjoying the more recent victory. But tonight would be no ordinary rubber match, with the fate of the entire tournament on the line. This one November night, the pair had carved a path through the opposition to meet as the last two standing. Each man had done so while showcasing his own unique, incredible style. Ernesto Hoost was a Dutch kickboxing veteran with multiple championship accomplishments under his belt. Known as Mr. Perfect, Hoost possessed some of the most dangerous kicks in the game. And the special way he checked kicks was enough to knock out competitors. To this point in the tournament, Hoost had KO'd Stefan Lico and Jerome LeBanner, and earned a hard-fought majority decision against Francisco Filo. Hoost had not had a chance at the finals since 1993, so he was determined to win it all this time around. Andy Hoog was a karate dynamo who regularly shocked opponents with his versatile and inventive kicks. He was known for his sky-high axe kick and the Hoog Tornado, a spinning hook kick targeting his opponent's leg. He had knocked out Gwinnett and Satake in less than a round combined, and he had chopped the lumberjack down to size. He had gotten even with Hoost in their last encounter, and now was the chance to break the tie and gain a second championship in the process. Hoog started with the karate blitz, feinting 4 punches to set up one real leg kick. But Hoost was still able to check it at the last moment. He responded with a head kick. Hoog tried to intercept with a powerful front kick that, unfortunately, landed low. After a well-deserved break, Hoost was thankfully ready to resume the fight. It would have been a travesty for it to end like that, and I imagine our viewers that have been watching these videos for the last 2 years would have been pretty pissed off. The fight got back underway, and a clear picture of each man's strategy emerged. Hoog was looking to move around as much as possible, staying up on his toes, bouncing, disguising his attacks with feints, capitalizing on his explosiveness. This let him lead with his rear hand, a strategy much more viable when each fighter has opposite feet forward. Hoost had a much different temperament. Rather than a movement-based approach to set up his attacks, he edged forward like impending doom, slowly closing into striking range. Once there, he threw 6 punches. Hoog took them on his guard and moved off angle, but Hoost wasn't finished and caught Hoog with a whipping roundhouse to the leg. Both men had proven they could land. They would now see how far they could push the action. After a lengthy exchange where each man smothered the other's work, Hoog managed the only clean strike, a body knee, and angled away. To those watching, it seemed that Hoog might have been just a little bit too active, a little bit too agile for Hoost to keep up with. But then, as he often did, Hoost found a way to turn an opponent's greatest asset into a critical liability. Hoog leaped in with another leading cross. Hoost ducked it this time, and Hoog flowed into his go-to follow-up, pushing in and cross-framing to set up a leg kick. This had worked well against Arts, pushing in with his high guard so he could transition to a cross frame and leg kick, leaving the lumberjack limping at the end of their encounter. But before Hoog could set this up, Hoost was already piecing him up, piercing his guard with tight, short punches. Hoog did not have the most developed high guard. He was forced to bail from the exchange, and Hoost capitalized with 2 sharp kicks. Hoog tried to pay him back with his signature axe kick, but Hoost simply shrugged it off. Now that he had found something that worked, Hoost used his hook uppercut combinations to punish Hoog in every exchange. Hoog repeatedly tried to smother the blows and push away into a cross frame from his high guard, but Hoost was there with rapid-fire close-range boxing to shut him down. The few times Hoog did manage to fire off a kick, Mr. Perfect's defenses were on point. By the end of the round, Hoost was pushing forward. Hoog's best attack throughout the round had been his leading cross. But Hoost turned that against him too. As Hoog tried to unleash his left hand, Hoost intercepted with a kick that sent his lead leg heavy opponent collapsing to the canvas. Hoog began the second round with a more cautious approach, bouncing in and out to throw less committal rangefinders. Hoost quickly found another counter, stepping in to brace against the kick and unleash a hard cross. While that missed, the follow-up hook landed hard. Hoost pursued his prey, landing a leg kick and piling on with an unending barrage, battering Hoog's tight shell. Hoog was knocked out of position, and when he turned back, he found a hard uppercut waiting for him. His head snapped up, but he stayed calm, enduring the storm until the downpour had abated, and then pounding his gloves in defiance. Hoost was a force of nature, but Hoog spat in the eye of the storm, hurling a hard overhand that turned Hoost's chin. He punched his way into a collar tie, slamming Mr. Perfect into a hard knee. On the verge of victory, Hoost was now forced to back off. But now that Hoost had found a crack, he kept hammering at it, pulling Hoog into tremendous uppercuts. Halfway through the round, Hoog went for a spinning hook kick, but Hoost was pure ice, ducking it with the attitude of a man stepping over a puddle in the street. But just when Hoog seemed to be totally out of options, he found his own counter. Hoost threw an uppercut, but Hoog was expecting it now. He slipped and responded with a fearsome rear hook. The same defense and counter worked again just a moment later. Hoost's uppercuts had allowed him to control the round, but now Hoog had gotten himself out of the repeating, punishing exchanges that must have felt like a time loop. He was back on equal footing and looking for vengeance. He finished the round with the karate sweep. Hoost denied him his first attempt, but Hoog insisted on seeing his opponent on the canvas. Now, the next and final round would reveal if one of the two gladiators would end up there for good. Hoost was still ahead, but if Hoog connected with one of his insane karate kicks, it wouldn't matter. The 16-man Grand Prix would all come down to this. True to style, Hoog once more started off the round with a bang, leaping into what may have been an epic finishing attack, if Hoost hadn't perfectly timed it with a cracking uppercut. Hoog somehow stayed conscious after falling full force into Hoost's fists. However, fortune smiled on him that day, and Hoost threw himself to the canvas with a missed punch that might have put Hoog there instead. Recovered, Hoog pressed forward with the urgency and dogged determination of a man on the wrong side of a championship fight. Hoost now interchanged his close-range uppercut from the clinch with other equally devastating strikes, making it much harder for Hoog to respond correctly. The Dutch-style kickboxer hammered at Hoog's rear leg, using a favorite tactic of his southpaw rival against him. The karateka kept trudging forward. Every time Hoog mixed in punches, they opened the way for his kicks and knees. But Hoog was from a Kyokushin background where punches to the head were not allowed, and they were far from his first instinct. But eventually he caught on and went full in, throwing 10 in a row to cut through Hoost's tight defenses. Hoost went to the clinch, throwing a body knee and chaining into a hard inside leg kick. Hoog roared right back with an axe kick, the weight of the strike making his opponent stumble. But Hoost did not buckle, coming right back with a hard hook, which Hoog ducked. The skill level of the two warriors was only matched by their ferocity and heart. Both fighters now wearing the marks of this battle, as well as the several battles they had been through the same night. Halfway through the round, Hoog threw a lead hook that was skillfully intercepted by Hoost's right hand. He followed with a chopping leg kick. Now it was Hoog's turn to land an uppercut in the clinch, but Hoost capped off the exchange with another patented kick. He liked it so much, he went for another, but Hoog's check off-balanced him, and a little nudge took him the rest of the way. The ref didn't count it as a knockdown, but Hoost was not happy about it regardless. He got far more aggressive, targeting Hoog's legs with a brutal purpose. While he tried to cut down the samurai, Hoog punished him for staying in range with long punch combinations. But Hoost was single-minded, and he bet that his shots were doing more damage. He had been kicking underneath Hoog's checks throughout the fight with great success. It's insane that Hoog remained standing when Hoost's former competitors had all collapsed under the blunt force trauma of his insane kicks. In contrast, Hoog fought fire with fire, whipping a spinning back fist through Mr. Perfect's head, one of the best strikes of the fight. Hoost was equally tough and cracked right back, kindling a firestorm of violent exchanges that did not abate until the very end of the round. All good things must come to an end. In this contest, the judges' hands would score the decisive mark. And they found the winner of the 97 Grand Prix tournament to be Mr. Perfect, Ernesto Hoost. It was a well-earned victory against one of the greatest kickboxers to ever live. As we close the book on this long-running series, we should take a moment to recognize how special this event truly was. This was still an era of style versus style, and each competitor served as a pinnacle representative for their art. As the decades have gone by, it has become clear that the heat of competition was a way for these warriors to bond and come together. Many chose to collaborate, sharing techniques, training with one another, and becoming lifelong friends. Most of K-1's 97 class went on to teach and train the next generation of strikers and mixed martial artists, continuing the cycle of what makes martial arts truly special, the passing of knowledge so that even when the glory of competition fades, the art goes on. And if you want to see this tradition upheld, you can check out Glory's Light Heavyweight Grand Prix, happening June 8th and linked below. Their heavyweight tournament did not disappoint, and I expect this one to be no different. From the Modern Martial Artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you happy training.